Have you ever found yourself wondering, is the Mexican digital nomad dream, well, dead? If you've been plugged into the remote workspace lately, you've probably noticed a growing frustration. The once idyllic palm-fringed hubs of southern Mexico like Tulum and Playa del Carmen have become completely oversaturated. I mean, we're talking about hyperinflated rent prices, crowded cafes where you literally can't even find a seat, and a cost of living that looks a lot more like California than the affordable paradise it used to be. So have these strained, tourist-driven hotspots completely destroyed the remote work dream? Well, the answer is no, but the map has definitely changed.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive strategic pivot that's happening right now in the remote work community. We're going to break down exactly why digital nomads are choosing Ensenada up in Baja California over those other popular Mexican beach destinations. And we're going to look at the hard data and real experiences straight from the remote workers who have already made the leap. When you put Tulum side by side with Ensenada, the contrast is honestly staggering. Tulum's economy is pretty much entirely tourist-driven. That means short-term vacation demands have sent prices through the roof, and all that rapid, unchecked growth has severely strained local power and internet grids. Ensenada, on the other hand, it's a grounded, diversified working city. It operates on domestic pricing, meaning you aren't paying an invisible tourist tax on every single thing you buy. It has the reliable infrastructure of a mature, established urban center rather than a jungle town struggling to keep the lights on. To really drive this home, let's look at some raw, authentic feedback from the digital nomad community on Reddit. One seasoned remote worker bluntly described Tulum as, quote, an appalling shit show and the worst tourist trap in Mexico. But then they highlighted how much more functional northern and coastal alternatives like Ensenada are, noting that Ensenada is chill and, absolutely crucially for us online workers, it has reliable utilities. It really validates the pain points we're seeing across the board. Remote workers are exhausted by the party town chaos and they're looking for stability. And you find that stability in a place with a real diversified economy, not one based entirely on tourism.
So let's jump into part one, Ensenada as the strategic base. Which leads us perfectly into part two, the proximity dividend. Beyond its strong local economy, Ensenada has a massive geographic superpower. For remote professionals whose corporate contracts, clients, or finances are tied to the United States, geography is everything. And this number right here, this is the absolute game changer. 90. Ensenada is exactly a 90-minute drive south from San Diego. Just think about that for a second. No more booking expensive, multi-hour international flights just to see your family for the holidays or to show up for a mandatory quarterly meeting. You just get in your car and drive. It completely flips the psychology of living abroad when your home country is literally a short podcast listen away. And the infrastructure perfectly backs up that 90-minute claim. We aren't talking about grueling, unpaved roads here. The drive is incredibly smooth, thanks in large part to the new Tijuana bridge and tunnel that drop you directly onto Highway 1, completely bypassing city traffic. But the real magic happens at the border itself. Thanks to the new and expanded Sentry lanes, which, if you don't know, is the Trusted Traveler program, at both the San Ysidro and Otay Mesa border crossings, getting back and forth is incredibly fast and seamless in both directions. You just bypass those infamous hours-long wait times entirely. Because of this border ease, maintaining your U.S. footprint is a simple three-step reality with basically zero friction. Step 1, you can literally drive north for an in-person meeting and be back in Mexico for dinner. Step 2, you keep using your U.S. bank accounts effortlessly. And for physical mail or Amazon packages, you just use a border-adjacent DHL or U.S. mailing address and scoop them up on a weekend drive. Step 3, you stay perfectly aligned with West Coast tech corridors because Ensenada is in the Pacific time zone. And you can even keep your standard U.S. cell phone plan since most major carriers include seamless roaming in Mexico anyway. Moving right along to part 3, fiber internet and infrastructure. Look, a cheap cost of living and a great location don't mean a thing if a heavy rainstorm knocks out your Zoom connection for a week. So let's talk about bulletproof digital infrastructure. Let me anchor this with some hard data.
In Ensenada, major domestic telecommunications providers offer symmetrical fiber-to-the-home internet plans of 100 megabytes per second for just about $27.50 USD a month. That's not just wildly affordable. The fact that it's symmetrical, meaning your upload speeds are just as fast as your download speeds, is critical if you're pushing large files to cloud servers or hosting video calls.
And you aren't just relying on one single provider either. You have that fast, affordable fiber right in the city center, but if you decide to live a bit further down the coast or maybe out in the nearby wine valleys, Starlink connections are incredibly popular here and give you absolute remote reliability. Between the fiber and the Starlink setups, the low latency you experience rivals and often flat-out beats expensive suburban networks in the US. You are getting flawless video conferencing, no matter what.
Okay, part 4, the cost of living comparison. So we know the infrastructure is rock solid, but what does it actually cost to live this lifestyle? Let's do a hard, numbers-based comparison between Ensenada, Tulum, and San Diego. Just take a look at the bottom row. A digital nomad couple can live an incredibly comfortable life in Ensenada for a total of $1,800 to $3,000 USD a month. That covers rent, utilities, groceries, dining out, the whole shebang. Compare that to Tulum, where you are easily looking at $2,500 to well over $4,500 because of massive tourist premiums on basic apartments. In San Diego, you're dropping at least $6,000 a month just to survive. In Ensenada, you dodge the massive markups of the Yucatan and California, but your standard of living stays incredibly high. And speaking of that standard of living, moving to Ensenada doesn't mean you have to give up the modern conveniences you're used to. Yes, you have access to unbelievably cheap, fresh local produce and seafood at the traditional Mexican mercados, but you also have all your familiar large box stores. We're talking about Walmart, Home Depot, Smart & Final, Sam's Club, and yes, even a massive Costco, complete with a Costco gas station. It just makes the transition so seamless. You get the incredible cultural richness of Mexico, but when you really just need your favorite brand of coffee or bulk paper towels, it's literally right down the street.
Finally, part 5, a permanent nomad base.
Because of this perfect storm of affordability, top-tier infrastructure, and proximity, the narrative around Ensenada is shifting. It's no longer just a place to visit for a couple of months. It's becoming a highly viable, long-term home. And a huge part of putting down roots is knowing you are safe and cared for. Ensenada offers phenomenal healthcare. You have access to high-quality private hospitals, like Hospital 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗁, offering specialized services, emergency care, and diagnostics. And the cost? A typical consultation with a private specialist runs around $25 US. That is a fraction of what you'd pay out of pocket back in the States. It gives expats immense peace of mind. And don't worry, you aren't sacrificing your professional environment to live down here either. Ensenada has developed a really sophisticated workspace ecology. For formal needs, you have corporate service spaces with virtual offices and private meeting rooms. For your daily grind, there are collaborative innovation hubs and incredible specialty cafes roasting premium local beans. And to tie it all together, the local nomad community uses an app called Punta. It's this localized platform that helps you instantly plug into the community, coordinate professional workshops, or just figure out where the beach cleanup is happening on Saturday. Actually, the real estate market is actively adapting to this influx of remote knowledge workers too. We're starting to see the rise of master-planned remote communities, designed specifically around our lifestyle. For example, luxury developments like Panorama by Viento in the 𝗖𝗵𝗄𝗁 corridor feature high-end residences with flexible layouts that cleanly convert into ocean-facing workspaces. So you aren't just renting a spare bedroom. You are living in a space architecturally designed to maximize both your productivity and your sweeping views of the Pacific Ocean. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We all saw what happened to Tulum. We saw what happened to Playa del Carmen. The secret of Ensenada's affordability, its world-class internet, its amazing border infrastructure, and its incredible lifestyle, well, the secret's out. So the question you have to ask yourself is, will you secure your strategic base on the Pacific Coast before this market saturates too?